And Mollie Marcoux Samaan is kind enough to join us now as she winds down her stint as LPGA Tour Commissioner. Mollie, when you're in a high-profile job like yours, there's always plenty of people who are willing to render a verdict on how you're doing. But how do you personally feel about your tenure? Will you look back on it as a success, as a failure, or something in between?
Oh, no, I'm really proud of what we've accomplished. First of all, it's been a tremendous honor to serve in this role. But I'm really proud of what we've accomplished in the 3.5 years, almost 4 years that I've been, with the LPGA. I think we've grown purses. I think that's the number one thing that we look at is how are we providing opportunities for our, the best athletes in the world to live their dreams through golf, and to have 90% growth in purses from 2021 to 2024 and still growing, and to have the player income, double during that period. And there's been so many other positives and so much other growth just from the full media consumption. In 2021, 4 million people a week were tuning in and really consuming the LPGA content. Then we went to 7 million last year to peak over 11 million. And then to have, a couple of our events be 26 million at the Chevron Championship, 42 million people consuming our content at Solheim Cup. I mean, those are really big numbers. And to have that growth during that period, I think we've also, really proud of the strategy that we've built. I think it's a really solid strategy that will allow the LPGA to continue to grow into the future. And we built an infrastructure to handle the demand and to handle the growth that's going to occur. So I look back on it, I've built some amazing relationships. I've loved every minute of it, and I'm really proud of what we accomplished. So yeah, no, I'm thrilled with what we've done, and I know that the LPGA is positioned for tremendous future, which is really important to me. Obviously, someone who cares so deeply about the organization and about women's sports.
A lot of positive numbers there. There is over a year left on your contract. So I'm curious what brought you to the decision that now is the time to go. Did you feel as though you lost the support of your board of directors or your players somewhere along the line?
No. I mean, I think, timing is always sort of everything in life. And I think we come to a point where we, that, like I said, the strategy, we really spent a lot of time on building that. We built the infrastructure. And for me personally, my husband and I have 3 children, and to have the time to, it's a taxing job, obviously. It's amazing. It's challenging, but to have time to cheer on my children at this kind of critical point in their lives is really important to me. My son's in high school. He's got a couple more years left, and to be able to watch him pursue his passions was really important to me. And then also to be able to continue to pursue, my passions, which I've had amazing jobs, really 4 great organizations that I've worked for in my 30-plus year career. And this just felt like the right time to be able to pursue those other opportunities. So no, I think this was the right decision for me, and I'm excited about what comes ahead for the LPGA and for me personally.
You mentioned some of the accomplishments that you're most proud of over the last 3 years. Is there one accomplishment that you set out to achieve, and despite your best efforts, you couldn't quite get there, and it still bugs you to this day?
Well, I mean, I think if you're a hard-charging, type A, growth-minded person, you're always looking at how we can do better. I mean, every day I think we reflect and say, what can we be doing better? So I would say I think there's still a lot more room for growth in the corporate marketing side of our business, and I think we've built that infrastructure now to be able to achieve those goals. I think we really set out to kind of expand the technology of the LPGA. We're right on the precipice of that, and I know the team's going to get there. But those are some things that were really, really important to me. I think we have grown our corporate marketing program significantly. We have a really great team that's ready to capitalize on that. I do think there's more growth to be had there. And I also think that, sort of how we get LPGA into that next level of technology will be really important. So we've been working hard at that. We haven't quite gotten that exactly where we want to get it yet, but we've got great plans for that, and I think we're really close.
Donald Rumsfeld, the former defence secretary, had a great line where he used to say that certain things were not his fault, but they were his responsibility. Is that the approach you had to take with certain things like, say, the Solheim Cup transport issues, or the players no showing at that dinner at the CME Tour Championship, where it wasn't necessarily your fault, but as the leader of an organisation, it was a somewhat embarrassing moment, and you had to personally take responsibility for that?
Yeah, I mean, I believe really strongly in accountability and teamwork. And as the leader of the organization, you have to own all of it. You're obviously not involved in every detail of a pretty complex global organization, but you know, you have to own it. And I think the big thing, as I said before, you've got to figure out how to get better from any mistakes that are made. And every organization has challenges, and you look at it, you diagnose it, and you move forward. But yeah, I mean, I've always been someone who looks internally and says, okay, what could I do better? What could our team do better? And let's move forward from there. So I think accountability is really key for a leader, and to make sure that you take that on. You know, that's really what a leader does.
And accountability doesn't just extend to your office, it extends to all of the constituents. Do you feel as though over the 3 years you had the buy-in from your top players, that they actually understand what they need to do to sell the product as much as what you need to do?
I think so. I mean, we talk about that a lot in our player meetings, and the players are amazing, first of all. I mean, I am so impressed with what they do and how they handle themselves on and off the golf course. And, you know, again, I think they're doing a fantastic job. I do think it is a team effort. I think everybody in the organization, from the staff to the leaders to the board to the players to our partners, all of us need to be aligned on where we're going. This is, you know, we're all committed to the growth of the LPGA, the growth of golf, the growth of women's sports, and it's never one constituent's job to do all of it. And so I think that we talked about that a lot in our player meetings, talked about it a lot with players individually. And I think, you know, everyone has to be a part of the growth, which we've said many times. And I do think they understand that. They have a lot of pressures on them. There's a lot of responsibilities on our players. And it's a competitive, hard, you know, environment out there. They're playing against the very best in the world. And they do need to focus on being great themselves individually. But I know that they know how important the LPGA is and how important their role is in continuing to grow it.
And of course, that growth does require investment. There were reports last month that the tour might lose somewhere in the region of $2 million for 2024. And that came after you'd announced about a 35% increase in terms of staffing resources. Did the board accept that that kind of investment in infrastructure is necessary to grow, or did those numbers become problematic at a board level at all?
No, I think, you know, every year that I've been commissioner, we've exceeded the budget, the approved budget, and this year, obviously, 2024 is not finished yet, but we're projected to hit our budget again this year. So we're all aligned, and that's something that we do together with the board. And so again, you need to make investment into the growth of the organization for the future. And again, we've done really well over the last several years financially.
Do you see any scenario, Mollie, in which the LPGA Tour would form some kind of financial partnership with the Saudis or the Public Investment Fund or Live Golf?
Yeah, I mean, I think that will be a decision if those opportunities come forward for the LPGA. That will obviously be a decision that the new commissioner and the board will have to make. I mean, I think I've been pretty clear on, you know, the idea that women's sports right now needs investment, and with investment, there's really no end to where we can go. And so I'm a big proponent of taking investment. I think, as I've also said along the way, that the job of the commissioner, the job of the board, is to evaluate opportunities as they are presented and determine, you know, for me, as a women's organization, does any investment or any partnership elevate the women on the tour and elevate girls and women? So that's, I think, the lens that should be used to figure out, you know, how to move forward with any type of investment.
But does it matter where that money comes from? I mean, would it have, it won't be your decision, as you say, but given the values issues at stake here, would that have troubled you personally to have to negotiate that kind of deal?
I think you have to, again, the goal and the role of the commissioner is to evaluate what opportunity it would provide. And so it's hard to answer it, you know, in isolation. I think you got to look at, okay, is this going to elevate the women? Is it going to elevate girls and women more broadly? Is it going to grow the game? There's a lot of factors. So, you know, I can't answer that right now, but I think you'd have to evaluate all of that, as I've said, you know, all along throughout the last several years. Your predecessor, Mollie Marcoux Samaan, seemed to enjoy universally positive press for his 10 years on the job. Do you feel as though it was a kind of a tough measuring stick that anybody who came after that was arguably going to be judged more harshly? Mike's great. I mean, I think he did a phenomenal job during his time. He had different, challenges when he started, and then sort of at the end of his tenure. And he likes to say this, and I've said this, is whenever you change leadership, you pass that baton and you start from where they ended and you move forward. And I think we took what he built, and we built upon it, and we did a really good job of that. So, yeah, Mike's fantastic, and I think I was able to take what he did and continue to build off of that and really see this tremendous growth that we've had over the last several years.
What do you think will be the biggest challenge on the desk of your successor?
Well, I think, as I said, I think the job is, the job's hard, and it's complex, and it requires a ton of travel. I think you need to be really good at the commercial side of the business, but I think you also have to have a really great sense of the sporting side or the golf side. So that's important for the next commissioner, to be able to do both and to manage all of that. I think getting more resources into the organization so we can hit our full potential is really the challenge that's ahead, is making sure that we continue to get the very best partners who see the mission and the vision of the organization and invest alongside of us to continue to grow. So it's a complex job. You have many constituents, as I said, but I'm positive that the LPGA will find a fantastic commissioner to lead the organization into the future, and I think we've set that person up for great success.
It is tomorrow that you move gracefully towards the exit. When you look back on it now, is there anything you would do differently in hindsight?
I think, there's, as I said, if you're a hard-charging, growth-minded person, you're always going to look back and reflect on your time. I think there was a learning curve for me at the beginning, just in terms of learning golf, learning the ecosystem. I think I may have taken a little bit more time before we jumped into a few things, just to be able to prioritize time. I think I went really hard and really fast and traveled a lot. I think I traveled 170-plus days last year, and maybe figuring out how to prioritize that time a little bit better. But, overall, as I said, I'm super, super proud of what we've accomplished, the team that we've built, and where the organization is.
What comes next for Mollie Marcoux Samaan? Because you've never struck me as the retiring type.
Yeah, no, listen, I love to work. I said before, I've had an amazing career that to this point, I graduated in the early 90s. I've been working straight in sports really for 33 years, which has just been phenomenal for me to work in high school athletics, to work in amateur athletics, to work in college athletics, to work in professional athletics. So I am really committed to the idea that sports really builds leaders, unites communities, and is such an important part of society. So I'm going to stay working in sports, get some projects brewing right now that I'll start, as soon as I finish up here. I've been really focused on helping transition and setting up, Liz Moore, who's the interim commissioner, for great success, and helping the organization be ready for the next step. And then, as I said, I got a lot of energy left still in me, and I'm going to still use the experience that I've had to be able to have impact with sports. And I'm not exactly sure what that looks like yet, but as you said, I'm definitely have a lot more energy and a lot more gas in the tank.
Well, we certainly appreciate you taking some time on a busy week to spend a few minutes with us, Mollie, and we wish you well in whatever comes next.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for everything that you guys do for the LPGA. The partnership with Golf Channel is really important, and really appreciate you and everything you do and what your colleagues do. So have loved the relationship and appreciate it greatly.
Well, Mollie Marcoux Samaan was the 9th commissioner into her history. Here's a look at her predecessors. She came after Mike Wan departed for the USGA back in 2021. Also on that list, Ty Votah, who ran the tour during the height of the Annika Sorenstam-Carrie Webb rivalry. And I want to welcome in Paige McKenzie, who played on the LPGA Tour from 2007 to 2015. Paige, how do you think Mollie Marcoux Samaan's tenure as commissioner will be remembered?
I think, first off, I want to thank her personally for the service that she put into her time at the LPGA Tour. I think any commissioner takes it very personally when they do the job, because it is a personal job. She mentioned 170 days on the road last year. It takes a toll personally and professionally to be that busy all of the time. But how she will be remembered, I think she's going to be remembered as a very cooperative leader at the LPGA Tour. She was always listening a lot to the players and to people around her to try to understand what everybody's needs were. And I think that was probably her greatest strength that she brought to the job. So I think that is likely how she will be remembered.
In terms of the players, do you believe they have bought into their obligations? Because we know it's always easy to blame the commissioner, but do you believe the players actually gave her sufficient support over those 3 years?
That's a great question, Eamon, and I think we'll never know the full extent of that. I know when Mollie first got there, there was a lot of energy around the players, and she did take into consideration all of the players' needs. In fact, when you talk about player services, I don't know if there's a commissioner, certainly in recent history, that did more to try to make the players comfortable, to try to allow them to do their best work on the golf course. I also think that is a steep criticism of her as well, though, because perhaps the players weren't as obligated to do as much outside the ropes because that wasn't a priority of hers. Hers was to make sure that the quality of golf was there and that the players got the services that they need. So I think that is a double-edged sword a bit when it comes to where she fell on working with the players, is that I think she was very friendly to the players, and I think that actually may have cost the product a little bit in their willingness to do media, in their willingness to do sponsor events or have the obligation to do those certain things. So to me, that was a double-edged sword with the commissioner.
And we've gotten to the point now where the search is underway for her replacement. What would you like to see from the next commissioner in terms of both a vision and what they're focused on?
Yeah, I think going back to the core business, to really focusing in on how do you shore up and make sure all these tournaments are in good position? How are we getting the best broadcast value? How are we being creative to make sure that we're getting the largest exposure for the LPGA Tour worldwide? That's always been the core business. And to me, it only goes astray when leadership goes astray of what the core values are of the tour and what their needs are. And to me, it's then communicating the metrics of which to be measured. Having seen Mike Wan and being on tour while he was there, it was very clear what the metrics were going to be to measure his success as a commissioner. And I think in the same way, I would love to hear from the next commissioner what their vision is and then how we expect to be able to measure that success, whether it's increasing purses, whether it's increasing television hours. What will it be? And then just making sure that you have player buy-in on all of that. I think players know and understand that this is an entertainment product, and making sure that everybody's on the same page and willing to do the things that need to be done in order to continue to promote and grow. And that is the one thing that is consistent. I think the player body in itself knows and understands, and no one is more passionate about the success of the LPGA Tour than the players playing on it.
Certainly a tough job with a lot of demands, and it's going to be a fascinating process to see how it plays out.